meeting of the Westwood Select Board to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, on March 29, 2023, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act making appropriations for the fiscal year 2023 to provide for supplementing certain existing appropriations and for certain other activities and projects. This act includes an extension until March 31, 2025 of the remote meeting provisions. This January 8, 2024 Select Board meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. I hereby grant permission to Westwood Media Center to record the meeting and to anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. With that, good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I am Mary Ann LeBlanc Cummings, the chair of Westwood Select Board. With me are my colleagues, Rob Gotti and Joe Previtera. Also with us on the screen is our town administrator, Chris Coleman, Molly Keene, assistant town administrator and human resources director, Molly Keene, Stephanie McManus, assistant town administrator and finance director, Pat Ahern, town council, Tish Healy, executive assistant to the town administrator, and Alex Portillo is with us from Westwood Media Center. Thank you very much, Alex. With that, we'll jump right into the chair's update. First, we want to let you know that we are now accepting nominations for the John J. Cronin Public Service Award for 2024. This award is named for the late John J. Cronin, town treasurer, who for many years selflessly gave up his time for the betterment of Westwood, both as an elected official and in numerous volunteer activities within and outside of our community. Past recipients include James Gavin, Pat Ahern, Michael Crone, Stephen Rafsky, Barbara Delisle, Ned Richardson, and Tom McCusker. Nomination forms are available online on the town's website, or you may contact the Select Board office at selectboard@townhall.westwood.ma.us to have one sent to you. All nominations should be submitted to the Select Board office at Westwood Town Hall by March 1, 2024, and the award will be presented at the annual town meeting in the spring. If you have any questions, please contact the Select Board office, either by email, the address which I just gave you, or by phone at 781-326-4172. Secondly, we want to announce that there is now a vacancy on the Board of Health. This position will be posted on the town website, and we encourage residents to apply. And lastly, we want to remind you that the special town meeting will be held on January 17, 2024 at the Westwood High School Auditorium. Registration will take place in the auditorium lobby at 5:30 p.m. with the official business of the special town meeting to begin at 6:30 p.m. On the warrant are two articles. Article 1 is for the funding of the design and bid documents for a new Fire Station 1, our main fire station on High Street, and seeks an allocation from free cash in the amount of $2.1 million. As we have discussed extensively at our prior meetings, this article is vitally important for public safety because Fire Station 1 no longer meets the needs of the fire department or the community. For more information, I direct you to the town's website for the video public service announcement regarding the fire station and to the written materials presented at the Finance and Warrant Commission's public hearing on December 6, 2023. I also direct you to the Westwood Media Center recording of that December 6th public hearing at which the Select Board presented on this. Article 2 on the special town meeting warrant is a debt housekeeping article relative to abandoning the purchase of a fire multi-purpose vehicle in the amount of $400,000 because that vehicle can no longer be procured. The article authorizes that that amount be transferred to pay a portion of the costs of the Pine Hill Elementary School project, not adding to the cost of the project, but rather reducing the amount to be paid by taxpayers. We encourage all registered voters in Westwood to attend the special town meeting on January 17, 2024, starting at 6:30 p.m. to participate in this important town business. With that, I will turn it over to Chris for the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I know we have our town clerk, Dottie Powers here, so if I misstate anything, I'm sure Dottie will correct me. But a message from the town clerk's office: the 2024 state election schedule. March 5th, 2024 is a presidential primary. September 3rd, 2024 is a state primary. November 5th, 2024 is the state election. Postcard applications will be mailed by the Secretary of the Commonwealth to all voters starting the week of January 8th. Voters will have the option to request mail-in ballot for all eligible 2024 elections or any election on a specific date. Different applications for party voters versus non-party voters. Party voters won't have an option to select a primary ballot, but will be told they will receive they will be told that they will receive their party ballot. Unenrolled / non-party voters will have the option to select primary ballot for presidential primary and state primary. Please be sure to return your completed application as early as possible. Applications must be completely filled out and signed by the voter in order for a ballot to be mailed. Ballots should begin to be mailed out in early February. Also, nomination papers are available tomorrow for the annual town election. If there's any additional information that anyone has, please contact our town clerk's office. I want to thank our recreation department for a great send-off to 2023 and a great kickoff to 2024 with the annual fireworks that were held on December 31st. It was a great time, great fireworks, and like I said, it's a really great way to end one calendar year and roll into the next. Also want to thank our Public Works Department and our contractors for their proactive work in preparing for the storm that we had on Saturday night and Sunday morning. And Sunday evening, as well as the work they did throughout that storm to get the roads into the great conditions that they're in. Lastly, we did receive some information from the Dedham Westwood Water District regarding a water rate discussion. The information is on the website as well as being shared through our social media pages. But just to let people know, the Dedham Westwood Water District will host a discussion about this year's water rate increase at their next Board of Commissioners meeting, which is being held on Tuesday, January 16th at 6:30 p.m. It looks like they have a 6.6% rate increase is being proposed. Residential customers, there's a number of different information in there, but it's going to be held. It's also a hybrid meeting, so you can go onto their website to look at that information if you cannot attend in person. And again, we will have the information regarding that with some greater details from the Dedham Westwood Water District on our website and on our social media pages. And Madam Chair, that's the updates I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. We will move to scheduled action, and our first agenda item is a quorum reduction discussion with respect to the special town meeting scheduled again for January 17, 2024. With us is our town moderator, Jim O'Sullivan, and our town clerk, Dottie Powers. Welcome to both of you. And just by way of background, at our December 4, 2023 meeting, we discussed this, and both the town moderator and town clerk recommended a quorum reduction for the special town meeting. And it was planned at that time that a formal vote would be taken at our December 18 select board meeting. However, as you may recall, that meeting was canceled due to weather, and so the vote was rescheduled to this meeting tonight, January 8th. So with that, I welcome you again, Mr. Moderator and Madam Clerk. Would you like to address this again, Mr. Moderator?
Sure. Just again, I'd ask the select board to approve the motion to reduce the quorum in accordance with the recommendation of town council.
Madam Clerk, did you have anything to add? And you're on mute, Dottie.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want everyone to understand that in no way is this precluding anybody from attending. We just feel that.
Dottie, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we lost Joe.
Oh,
I guess he is rebooting his computer. So I think we need to wait for Joe to get back before we continue. So perhaps we could just put a pause on this for a moment. I understand Tish is in communication with him. Tish, do we have any update? Nope, here he is.
There he is.
Sorry about that.
No worries, Joe. You're back.
Praise the Lord.
Dottie, sorry to interrupt you.
that's okay. So in consultation with town council and the town moderator, we decided we had the option of reducing the quorum to 10%, which is kind of a lower number, and we decided to go with 45, which is more than 10%. And we've done this the past couple of town meetings. And the most important thing is we want everybody to attend. This is not in any way precluding anybody from not coming. The problem is that many times we don't get a quorum, and our normal quorum is 175. If we didn't get that quorum, then we wouldn't be able to have the meeting, and we'd have to schedule it on another day, which, is time, is money, and a lot of planning goes into that. So, again, this is so that we can have this important town meeting next Wednesday. And again, we encourage all registered voters to attend. If you're not a registered voter and you're a member of the community that wants to come, you're more than welcome. You sit in a visitor section. But again, we really are encouraging all registered voters to attend.
Thank you, Dottie. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
No, just a reinforcement that it's a floor, not a ceiling. We'd love to see everybody.
Absolutely.
No,
I
no
can
comments.
remember times being at town meeting and texting and calling people to get down there so we could have a quorum, and really having to work at doing that. And that's not ideal. We obviously want we want all of our registered voters to participate. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that the business of the town gets done. I'm sorry, Joe. Did you have something?
Nope, I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
Well, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Sure thing. I move the select board, in consultation with the town moderator, vote to reduce the quorum for the January 17th, 2024 special town meeting from 175 registered voters to 45 registered voters, and for the town clerk to notify the attorney general of the adjusted quorum requirement.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator and Madam Clerk.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I can't stay. I've got to get to another meeting, but thank you.
All right. This brings us to our next scheduled action, which is an update from our town energy manager, Tom Philbin, regarding electric vehicle charging stations. I have to investigate an emergency in my building. So I'm just going to stop my video for just a moment while I check that out. This is just a discussion, which I think could start in my absence. I'm just going to excuse myself for a moment, if that's all right with everybody. Thank you.
Good evening. Hopefully my voice is on. I've been pushing all the different buttons to be sure.
You're on, Tom. You're good.
I just want to review quickly what we've been doing. As you know, as we move more and more to electric vehicles, it's becoming more and more important that we have a number of chargers throughout the town and have them accessible to as many members of our town and the public as possible. So that started out with a large program now, which is really going into its second year, getting all these grants and getting everything put together, getting all the designs and so forth. But we are an active participant in Eversource's what they call Make Ready program. Eversource funds the infrastructure upgrades that are necessary for putting in electric vehicle chargers. And then we also get money for the equipment that we're going to use from the DOER, what they call the Electric Vehicle Implementation Program. This is the program where the state received multi-millions of dollars as a result of the lawsuit with the diesel the diesel thing that Volkswagen several years ago lost and had to pay the states because they didn't properly test them. But anyway, the result of that was a lot of money became available, and it was given to the states to distribute as part of the electric vehicle program. So we've applied. We've been awarded a total. This is a total, not trying to distinguish, but roughly $600,000 in grants. And what that's going to do for us, it's going to put us having two level 3 with 2 ports each, or a total of 4 ports, level 3 chargers that'll be put in front of the police station. This is the most expensive part of the program. It's almost 400 of the 600,000. The reason we need high-speed chargers there is obviously the police want to be able to come in, charge their vehicles, and quickly turn around and get out. So this will charge the Teslas and the Ford F-150 and the Mustangs that he has and whatever else he gets. It'll take about a half hour at most to charge it. So that's going to be put in. And then at other locations, we don't need quite that power. So at the main library, the Council on Aging at the high school, we're hoping to put in 2 chargers, again, 4 ports at each location of those 3. And that money is also being funded by infrastructure by the Eversource, and the equipment is coming from the DOER, the EVIP program. So the efforts are all underway. There will be some costs that we'll have to incur, and the total is approximately $16,000 per site out of all of this. So it'll cost us $50,000 for the $600,000 plus worth of equipment. But the $50,000 we can get out of the select fund that we've used in the past, the environmental fund. So there are monies for these efforts available. But that covers things like warranties, which I think we definitely want to get. It's a 5-year warranty for each equipment. The installation cost is a slight cost for somebody to hook up everything after all the infrastructure is in place, and so forth. So there's a few chargers that are not covered by these grants. So I got everything I could covered, but I couldn't get 100%. But the result will be that we will have at least 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chargers and 16 charging ports. And then in addition to that, I'm making application now for the Pine Hill School. Pine Hill School is going to put in 3 electric chargers with 6 ports total. They'll be level 2. And in this case, since a lot of the work in terms of the infrastructure has already been done, and I'm told that they've ordered some equipment, I'm not quite sure yet. But I'll make application, and Eversource has assured me that they will just give us an outright grant credit toward what we've done. So there'll be money that will become available again to the kitty for the Pine Hill School to do with what they please. So all of that's well underway. I'm in the process of getting the purchase orders put together, everything done. As I said, the PO for the police station is already out. They're just awaiting delivery of a cabinet to begin the construction. And all of the others, I expect the POs to be out within the next few weeks anyway, or a month at most. There's a lot of detail that's been involved in all of this, and I've had a lot of ups and downs. I win and then I lose, and then I win again and lose again. There's a lot of persistence, and there's a lot of juggling going on between Eversource and the state as to who pays for what and who won't pay and so forth. But make a long story short, we finally, I thought, got to the goal line, and we're going to have a good system put into the town. So I'm open to any questions you all may have about that.
Well, all of that is outstanding news, Tom, and I want to highlight it's been as a result of your persistence over these years that we have gotten this far. So thank you so much for all of the work that you've done, which has made a real difference in Westwood. You are a true leader in this space, and we're so lucky to have you in Westwood.
Thank you.
Rob?
In addition to echoing what you just said in terms of all your hard work, Tom, just a couple quick questions. One is based on the PO being out at the police station and the others quickly following, when do you expect that they will be installed? Any projection on that?
On the police station, it's a supply problem. They have everything in stock to put it in right now. But the problem with the police station has been there's a cabinet. Because it's goes up to 480 volts, they have to put a special transformer in, and they putting that down and next to the place where the police now have like a picnic area, and that's what's holding it all up. As soon as that comes in, and weather permitting, the construction will begin right away on that. The other three things that we're awaiting, what they call work orders from Eversource to the contractor Maverick. And then when Maverick gets their work orders, they issue an invoice to us with the credit for what they get from Eversource and from the state. And then we pay the difference to them in a purchase order, and then they begin construction. I think all that should take about, again, very dependent on weather, but 3 to 4 months.
Okay. And if I remember right, the charging stations go in as part of the overall canopy that's going at the high school as well. Is that right?
No, has no
It's separate.
connection at all with the solar. That's a totally different project.
Okay, great. Okay. And then the only other question I had is I noticed there were going to be access controls. Is that going to be something that allows for basically someone to utilize this infrastructure and basically pay for that energy?
Yes, what you do at most of the towns, and I've been talking to Jim McCarthy and others about this, and looking at other towns and see what they do. But you put a limit on how long somebody can stay there. It's been abused over at the DPW a little bit. Sometimes people will leave a car there overnight, and we don't want that. So you'll probably put a 2-hour limit or something to that effect at each of the stations, and of course you'll mark them. And then for the public, you'll have some kind of a way to charge. And for any member of the community or any of the employees of the town, they'll have a charge card, but of course that'll go directly to the town. And it'll be something like that is what we're anticipating now, very generally though.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And that's part of the extra charge, that so-called, there's a network charge where we will network all of the stations together into one collection. So there'll be a revenue stream that we will get to some extent from it. I don't expect that to be significant, but it'll be there.
Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to say, Tom, a personal thank you. And I think you've done an outstanding job, and the town owes you a great deal, and you've just done terrific work. I think it's wonderful. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you for coming in to give us this update. We look forward to hearing from you again in the future.
Well, I have to run now and see what Michigan does in the championship tonight.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. All right. Thank you.
Is there a game tonight?
Hey.
Pat, you don't want to go there. Thank you again, Tom.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Good night now.
Madam Clerk, Madam Chairman, I'm sorry, there is a comment in the Q&A if you want. You're on mute, Marianne.
I apologize, and I apologize for the noise in the background. My building is doing an unannounced test of their emergency system, but it is a test, I confirmed. Fran Fusco, 20 Pine Lane, asks, how much is this costing the town in the capital investment and ongoing electric cost? Do non-residents use these? Are there concerns about losing parking spaces at these locations?
There's no loss of any parking spaces, except they become reserved for charging. So I guess that you could say that if somebody has no reason to be there, they would not be able to use the spots. But on the other hand, in the case of the police, for example, they now have 3 vehicles, they're getting a 4th, and they need this, and they need the rapid turnaround. In terms of the cost, we've noticed at the DPW, where we have the 2 electric vehicles, we've really not noticed any significant change in the overall cost of electric over the years. So the impact is slight, but by controlling the access and then charging, any extra costs, I think, will be tied to that, and we will pick it up by the way we charge for the meters.
Great. Thank you again, Tom.
Anything further? Okay.
I think that's it. Thank you again.
Bill, good night.
Good night. We will move on to our next scheduled action, which is an update from the Charter Review Committee. And I see that some members of the Charter Review Committee are coming in. We have Paul Fitzgerald, co-chair, and Peter Cahill, co-chair. I see Nancy Hyde, John Loughnane. We still have Dottie. We've got Dottie Powers, and Chris Coleman and Pat Ahern are ex officio, and Jessica Cole, recording secretary, is with us also. So good evening and welcome to all of you.
Good evening, Madam Chair. If I could just at the outset, we did post that the Charter Commission would be meeting in conjunction with the Select Board this evening. So I would also call the meeting of the Charter Commission duly noticed for this date and time to order.
Of course.
And our purpose for coming before you is we did meet with you last month and I took some of the feedback that we received from the Select Board. There's one change in the recommendation that we initially made to the Select Board based on that feedback. And what we would be looking for at this point is just the guidance from the Select Board if they wish to proceed with the articles. And we would plan to then go to FinCom at the evening when they're doing the presentation of these articles to begin the process of coordinating and advising with FinCom. And then we would like to, in February, host a public meeting for the town so that we can educate and inform the people of the town on these articles. The one change that we have recommending is relative to the FinCom. We had initially said that we would recommend that the charter provide that the FinCom consist of no less than 9 and no more than 15 members, as it is currently 15 members. And you may recall, Madam Chair, that our goal in recommending that was to afford the town moderator and the town in general more flexibility in terms of finding qualified people to serve on that committee. It was expressed to us during our hearings that sometimes finding 15 people is a challenge. And also during the terms that they serve, some people have to go off the board for various reasons because they get elected or appointed to other positions, or there's a conflict, or their personal circumstances change. And so we felt that if we changed the number and made it no less than 9 and no more than 15, that would provide that flexibility. We do believe that that same purpose can be accomplished if we changed it and now recommend that it be no less than 11 and no greater than 15. We think the same purposes would be served by promoting that. We also understand that this is only for purposes of practicality. The goal is always, and I think the moderator has the current moderator and the moderators that I've worked with have always made a true commitment to trying to find 15 qualified people willing to give the time and effort that it takes to do that. So that's the only major change from what we first presented to this board.
Thank you very much for that, Paul, and I appreciate your laying out the rationale and particularly for underscoring that the goal is 15, and that's what the town should be striving for. But to your point, I think probably more often than not, every year, we do lose folks from FinCom, usually for personal circumstances that may arise. Some folks move away, what have you. And we don't want to be out of compliance if that happens. We want the moderator to have whatever time is necessary to vet candidates to fill the Finance Commission. So I am comfortable with the proposal with respect to 11, with the understanding that the goal is 15.
Yeah, that would always be the aspirational goal. We don't advise putting that in the charter because it's only an aspiration. And as you know, as an attorney, Madam Chair, aspirations are difficult to enforce. And so we just felt it would not be proper to put such an aspirational goal in the charter that would be nothing more than aspirational language. But we underscore that we believe that. And as I said, every moderator that I've worked with has always worked towards that.
Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Was there anything else that you were recommending with respect to quorum?
We still would recommend, Member Gotti, that the board provide in the charter that once a meeting has started and a quorum has been established, that it be established for the purposes of the meeting. We don't make any other recommendation. In terms of a quorum number, and I know earlier in this meeting, you adjusted the quorum for the special town meeting. It would be our belief that any such change would be best done by a bylaw. And there's nothing that would make that bylaw exclusive from the charter.
Sorry, I wasn't speaking about the quorum related to town meeting, but more so related to the FinCom and having it be based on whatever the current
majority plus, it would be a majority plus one. So majority of the members plus one. That's the same for every other board and commission, and that is in the charter, that a majority of the a quorum is a majority of the members present and voting.
Very good. I'm comfortable with the recommendation and the revision to the original, so I'm good.
So at this point, we would just, if the select board wishes, we will proceed and present to FinCom at their first night and work through that process. And we do have a public meeting, which we'll be hosting on February 13th at Carby Street, and all members of the public are invited to come to that. And we are happy to discuss the provisions, explain our rationale for anything. So.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear you're having that public meeting. Joe, I just wanted to check in with you. Any comments or questions?
No, I think Paul, and the committee covered it well. Thank you.
Terrific. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the board, all of you on this call, all of the members of this Charter Review Committee, again, for the enormous work that has gone into getting to this point. So thank you all so very much.
And I also appreciate, Madam Chair, and I know my co-chair Peter does the work of everybody, including our ex officio members. Chris and Pat were invaluable to us in working through issues, and also
were and still are, Paul.
they still are. Yes. Even though I think the Alabama score has affected the town council at recent meetings, but I heard him question whether there was a game tonight. I think there is.
Well, the season ended last week.
But
Madam Chair, there is a question in the question box that I think is important to address and clarify. Is there
Thank you, Nancy.
a misunderstanding?
I see that. Thank you. Let me read that now. Fran Fusco, 20 Pine Lane. I asked the board to consider the ramifications of taking the power to choose who runs our elections out of the hands of the residents and putting it into the hands of the town administrator. I have serious concerns, as do many residents.
I don't believe that the proposal that we've recommended does that, Madam Chair. The elections by law are the purview of the town clerk. And we
There
have,
was a time when something was printed in Westwood Minute that erroneously put the appointment responsibilities in the hand of the town administrator, or referenced that, which is incorrect. And that was removed from the posting. I don't know if that's what's being referred to, but we're not proposing any changes that seem to be inferred in this question.
Thank you for clarifying that. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, again, want to thank you all for the substantial work and look forward to hearing your further discussions with residents and with FinCom.
thank you. Before we do, I will accept a motion to adjourn the Charter Commission.
So moved.
Made by Member Hyde. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Powers. Roll call vote. Member Hyde,
Yes.
Member Cahill,
Yes.
Member Powers,
Yes.
Member Lockney. He votes aye, and the chair also votes in the affirmative. So we are adjourned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you again.
Night.
You all have a good night. All right, moving on, we have a financial update as to FY25 with our Director of Finance, Stephanie McManus. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm just going to share my screen for a presentation. See that okay? Right. So we are currently in the middle of budget development for fiscal year 2025. And over the next few months, you'll be seeing me a lot. I'll be updating the board with different budget materials as we progress through. So the past month, we've been focusing heavily on putting together the capital budget, as well as going through initial requests for the municipal budget. And then eventually we will put together an overall operating budget that will be published. So tonight specifically, I'm going to share with the board an overview of the FY25 capital. So each year, the town develops a 5-year capital improvement plan. This document is currently for FY25 through FY29. It has been produced and will be posted on the town's website under the finance department for anyone who wishes to view the material in more detail. It serves as the basis for making capital budget decisions by taking a comprehensive look at the capital needs of the school and the municipal departments for a 5-year period. So the board has historically made the capital budget a priority and continues to make a high level of investment in the capital budget. We look to always maintain the assets we have invested and included in town and school buildings, as well as important equipment needed for departments such as DPW, fire, police, to perform the functions of their jobs. So the budget as it currently stands includes base capital funding broken out between the school municipal, sewer capital projects, ambulance capital, as well as some additional capital projects that are able to be funded through the meals and hotel tax revenue. There are also projects that would require borrowing for articles if they were to move forward. I'll go through some background on the funding of these articles historically, and then also show more detail for each of those specifically for the FY25 budget. So this chart just shows the history of the funding amounts for the base capital article. This amount has been increased over the past year. As you can see, back in FY12, 13, 14, we were spending under $100 million, so about a third of the current spending level. It's important for the board to invest in ongoing capital, and then whenever possible, increase this level to funding where we should be as per our financial policies. So right now in FY 25, we are looking to fund at that $2.3 million. That has been the same for the past few years, combined for both school municipal base capital. And like I said, we'll just continue to work towards that target for our financial policies. The additional capital article that I referenced being funded through meals and hotel tax includes projects that are proposed beyond that annual ongoing base capital. So this is just a chart of the additional capital articles and the amounts that have been approved over the past 8 years or so. They have included projects that were either deferred from a previous year or larger standalone projects that are just not appropriate to fit within the annual base allocation. And just for FY 23 specifically and FY 24, these are just a list of approved projects that fell within that additional capital. Currently for FY 25, that amount that we are requesting totals $550,000. So I'll just go through a more detailed look at each of the articles I outlined and sort of what's included in each of them, and feel free to jump in with any questions. So this is a breakdown of the base municipal capital article. The total amount, as you can see, is just over about 1.3 million, funded through free cash. This is similar level to the current fiscal year and includes standard projects and items for DPW, police, fire, library, IT, and building maintenance. For DPW, the fleet each year requests are submitted as part of the rotational replacement of vehicles and equipment. So the first item, the dump truck, is used for plowing as well as day-to-day operations of hauling materials. The asphalt roller will be used specifically to address paving deficiencies as part of the townwide pavement management program. And like I said, this is usual for these items. We have rotational fleet replacement schedules, and we know years out what we want to replace at what time. And these might be moved up year to year based on the needs of the department at the time. So for fire, the radio upgrade item is to replace portable radios so officers are able to communicate more efficiently throughout town. The turnout gear is an annual appropriation in order to keep up with the standards and regulations related to all the regulations basically for replacing gear year to year. I believe it's 10 years out. Every 10 years, they are required to replace the firefighters' gear. For IT, this is a reoccurring capital request. It includes the replacement of existing computer equipment, the purchase of new equipment, and then also the introduction of any technological resources for end users. Currently, the IT department supports over 350 users. So this is just to fund those ongoing needs each year. For the building division, and this is not DPW, this is specific to the Department of Economic Development. So for that building division, the request is for a vehicle to be used by division employees for field inspections, site visits, and other day-to-day activities that require travel. So the plan is to purchase a hybrid vehicle, which we're hoping Tom will help with, that is able to visit job sites and carry tools and equipment. So then for the library, there are 3 items. The first one is for library technology, which is, again, an annual allotment for staff and public used desktops and printers that are based. It's also similar to vehicles and fleet. It's based on a rotating schedule of replacement. The media suite is an additional request to supplement a project that was approved at the last annual town meeting in May of 2023 for a build out of the media suite and podcast studio. This request is specifically for the equipment needed to outfit that space. And this project is part of the library's strategic 3-year plan they have. The third item is for meeting room AV upgrade, which would upgrade the audio-visual technology in both the main community meeting room as well as the conference room from when it was originally installed when the library was built in 2013. So it just needs an upgrade of those pieces of equipment. For police, the vehicle request and safety equipment request are also both part of the annual appropriation for replacement of equipment and cruisers based on the rotational schedule. For FY25 in particular, this request is to replace 3 vehicles as well as bulletproof vests. For the radio infrastructure, similar to how I explained the fire, there's a need to have a yearly allocation to replace radios for officers in order to keep up with the issues of the aging radio infrastructure in town. And then lastly, the building department, which is part of DPW. This is for facilities maintenance. In particular, is an annual appropriation for repairs and maintenance of municipal buildings. Each year, those different projects rotate. It's just a funding source to address any upcoming needs of buildings that require attention throughout the fiscal year. Which is part of the investment I spoke about earlier to maintain buildings. The next item is similar, except it's specific to the town's facilities, more energy efficiency improvements. And then the ADA funding also specific to improvements to accessibility of town buildings, which is very important. And then lastly, the vehicle for facilities is to replace a vehicle that is currently in use and will be used daily by facility staff to move supplies and equipment between buildings. And I'll move on to the school unless there's any specific questions right now. So this is the base school capital article proposed by the superintendent in the amount of just over $1 million. It is the same level to the current fiscal year and is also funded through free cash. So this is a list of various program categories that they break down each year. Specifically this year, they're focusing on technology, HVAC improvements, building improvements, roofing, and then FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So these articles are related to sewer and ambulance and have their own funding sources. So the first is for what we call sewer capital improvements. These items will all be funded specifically through sewer retained earnings, so not through any other capital sources such as free cash or borrowing or any of that. The first one, stormwater compliance, it's aimed at improving water quality. It's federally mandated. We're required to invest and repair any damaged infrastructure. So that's just funding specifically for that. The I&I program, inflow and infiltration. This is specifically for this assessment portion of that program. It's for continuing investigations of the sewer systems and then to recommend any improvements that might be needed. The rapid view camera truck is specific to that I&I program I just discussed. It's a new request. It'll help them really go down through the pipes with cameras and sort of investigate firsthand what's going on. So it's going to be a huge tool for them to help with that program. And then the ambulance article, there's 2 requests currently in there for a total of $120,000. The rescue upgrade and replacement, this is an annual allotment that we do, but it's specific, it's fire department, but it's specific to the ambulance and equipping the ambulances with any kind of rescue tools they might need. And those things need to be replaced on a pretty regular basis. They're heavily used. And then specifically, this is a newer item. It's a LifePak cardiac monitor, which I've had to learn a lot about recently. We currently have 4 of these on our ambulances. There's a new requirement that we just have to replace them instead of repairing them. So we are proactively purchasing one, hopefully in FY25, to replace the most aging one and then sort of go from there. So this is very important. It's a requirement for the ambulance. It's, you know, a portable sort of cardiac monitor that you would see. So we're specifically asking for that in this article, and these items will both be funded through ambulance receipts. So again, not through free cash or any kind of capital sources. It's specifically funded through ambulance receipts.
Steph, what's the life expectancy on one of those, if that's now a requirement to replace? This will probably be something that's a recurring item as they cycle through.
No, it's a good question. So I think the plan moving forward is, as you can see in the capital plan, usually every other year or so, we replace an ambulance. We purchase an ambulance. In the future going forward, it's sort of the plan to always buy one of these with whatever ambulance we're purchasing and make sure we're life expectancy. I can get back to, I don't want to throw out a number. Since this is sort of a newer requirement, they were able to repair the board in past, like these things fail here and there, and they were able to repair them, but they're no longer able to do that. They have to be replaced. So I don't know the answer to that, but I will get you an answer on the life expectancy.
Thank you.
So the next article is related to additional capital. These are just requests, as I said, beyond the base. These items are funded through, for this year, it would be meals and hotel tax revenue. The total is for $550,000. The first item is generator upgrades and replacement at municipal buildings. This comes to us through the building facilities department at DPW. This was especially important recently, as you could see when there was power outages throughout town. Certain municipal buildings don't have generator backups. We also have an emergency center that we like to keep up. This would just be to replace or buy new generators for specific municipal buildings. In this cycle, it would be for the main library, which currently does not have one, as well as the senior center and Wentworth Hall. And then the second item is for recreation. It's acoustic tiles for the pool. That's $150,000. This equipment would, and I'm quoting this because this is, reduces the reverberation of sound, providing a more tolerable and safe environment. So this would be specific to the pool, panels that would be set up to help with noise reduction in that area. And then lastly on here would be projects that require borrowing. So there are currently 2 items on that list for FY25. The first one is a squad truck for the fire department. So historically, there have been 2 squad trucks. This vehicle would be to replace both of those. So moving forward, there would be 1 squad truck. It's specifically for, I guess you could call it off-roading. It's a vehicle that's able to get into heavier terrain and also carries a, don't quote me on this, I think it's a 500-gallon water tank. So fires that are, say, harder to get through, have to go through heavy terrain, this vehicle specifically would be dispatched for that. And there is currently a squad truck, but it's reached its end of life cycle and needs to be replaced. The second item is specific to the schools. They have requested a high school roof restoration program. So this would get, if this were to move forward, it would be to do a large restoration. It wouldn't be replacing the entire roof on the high school, but it would be doing a large portion and restoring it to get a much longer life expectancy out of that roof. So that would be another 20 years added to that life expectancy if they were able to do this and sort of get ahead of the maintenance on that roof. And then lastly, these are just a few items that we call on hold. They're just, I wanted to give the board an update on them. They were requests that came through for FY25, either items that just don't fit in currently with any other article or need additional information. The roadway improvements, this is for $350,000. This came from DPW. This would be supplementing the annual Chapter 90 funds we received. And it's a goal we're looking to fit in the budget if possible. And we continue to evaluate funding as it becomes available. The next 2 items are both from the school department, Thurston heating system and Thurston roof. These would be requests for repairs or replacements of those items for a total of $1.3 million, specifically in FY25. We're putting these on hold for now, and we're having internal discussions with the school department, just pending results of the facilities master plan study that was recently approved by the select board and should be underway shortly. And then the last item was from recreation, a request for a pickleball court. It's for $600,000. It's on hold just because we specifically need additional review on this. We're waiting for more information on possible locations, with the possibility of pushing this item out another year just due to the timeline and not being able to have enough information at the time.
And just to be clear, $600,000 isn't the cost of a single pickleball court, correct? That would be 3 or 2 or something along those lines. I imagine it can't be just 1.
Chris, do you have any input on this? I believe it's just
It would be
1.
3 courts. You're correct, Rob.
Oh.
It would be 3 courts.
Thank you, Chris. I'm not specifically a pickleball player, so thank you for that. All right, and that is the end of my presentation. I will just stop sharing my screen and answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and thank you for the level of detail you went into with respect to the capital items. Very helpful. Other questions or comments from my colleagues? You're on mute, Joe.
Rob, your question about the life pack defibrillators, there's been some spectacular changes in the technology, and we had to go through this at the hospital a few years ago. They've got some really nice life packs out there, so that's what I think that's related to. Stephanie, on the roof replacement at the high school, do we have, and Rob, you too, I guess, do we have, at the hospital, we had a regular system for replacing roofs, the schedule of all the different buildings. Do we have that now, or Chris, is that something that may be incorporated into our facility study?
Sorry, can you ask that one more time?
So Joe,
Rooftop,
I do think it will be part of what gets assessed as part of the facility study. I also know, and maybe Stephanie, you can talk a little bit more about this, that the schools maintain an account for sort of regular roof maintenance that they build over time. And I think what you're seeing in this request, and again, Stephanie, Chris, feel free to, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the amount that it may be needed beyond what they have available to do. But I think all of that is going to be assessed as part of the facility study.
That's correct. Each year, in the base capital amount, the school allocates a certain portion towards building their reserve for any roofing needs that come up. I think specifically right now, they're going to be using a good chunk of that for the Sheehan school roof. This is sort of a preemptive get ahead and investing a lot in the roof so that moving forward, they can have a much longer life expectancy out of it.
I understood that, Stephanie, but Rob, what I'm saying is, it's like the tires on your car. The tires don't last forever, the roofs don't last forever. And we tried to replace roofs before they had leaks. So,
Yeah, I think that's part of what Stephanie's saying with respect to the schools, in terms of they build a fund so that when you talk about literally a rainy day fund, right? It's so literally when a roof is at a point of needing replacement, they have funds available to do that. And it doesn't become sort of an emergency situation. So I think what you're looking for is almost like the vehicle replacement schedule or something along those lines. I don't
Exactly.
know. I can't speak to what the school does, but I imagine they have something along those lines. But I again, I think that's probably a great question for Tim and Lemma.
well, it's also a question for us because we also have municipal buildings that we know the roofs won't last forever. And wouldn't it be easier to have a schedule like we do for the vehicles to replace the roofs? And not be caught with a huge bill?
That's what I'm saying, is I think that's part of what the facility study is going to undertake and give us a sense of.
Yeah, I would push for a schedule. Fix it before it leaks.
I do, I think this is a good example of that. The school is, they specifically said that this would yield a 20-year plus warranty against leakage. So it's positive in that aspect.
I mean, the Downey must be getting close to a roof replacement. But we don't have a schedule.
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
No,
I don't have the
no,
schools.
not you, Stephanie. I'm just tossing it out to my fellow members on the select board in the sense that, like the tires on your car, you have to have it. I'd like to know in advance.
Understood as those apply to the municipal buildings, and we don't know what the schools do or don't have, as the school buildings themselves are under their care, custody, and control. But point well taken, and will be part of the facility study.
If I could just share a little bit. So as part of our 5-year capital plan, Joe, our facilities director does plan out at least 5 years. And so when the town asks for funding for a roof, it's a specific roof for a specific year. So there is a plan. I don't have the schedule off the top of my head, but I can certainly speak with our director to share that with the board at a future meeting.
Yeah, so I guess, Chris, so long as you capture a 20-year roof within a 5-year plan, I'd be hunky-dory with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Stephanie, thank you very much for
Thank
that.
you.
We can now move on to new business. And the first item is with respect to the use of mitigation funds to supplement the purchase of an ambulance. Stephanie, are you presenting on this as well?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
Hi
you very
again.
much.
So as you said, the town is requesting from the select board authorization to use mitigation funds. This is a requirement in order to utilize these funds. The town voted to accept back in fall town meeting of 2013, $900,000 in mitigation payments as part of the University Station development. Of that $900,000 of approved funds, there was a balance of $350,000. The following items were previously approved by the select board, leaving a current balance of $106,000. So that would be the fire station feasibility study, the fire station operational study, public safety radio infrastructure study, and a radio box repeater installation through Eversource. So with those 4 items, there is currently a balance in that account authorized to approve of $106,000. Tonight, we are requesting $90,000 of those funds due to an overage of an ambulance that we are looking to purchase. So in May of 2023 at town meeting, there was an approved $400,000 for the purchase of an ambulance. This request is for funding to cover the market pricing changes that have impacted the construction costs of emergency vehicles in general, and then specifically this ambulance. So the current quote from the vendor we have is dated September of 2023 for a total of just over $480,000, with a contingency amount also needed for that. So the town would like to use a portion of the remaining mitigation funds to cover the additional costs of the ambulance.
Thank you, Steph. Questions or comments? Joe, are you speaking? If you are, you're on mute.
Thanks, Maria. Stephanie, I see 478. You're saying over 480.
I said just about 480. I can.
Oh, okay.
So it's $478,886.
Got it. Thank you. I'm good, Maria.
And this would be an up to amount. We're asking for $90,000 just in case there were any additional allowances needed. And whatever specific amount we need, we would come back and update the board on that.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Steph, earlier you mentioned with that respect to that life pack that Joe was talking about, that going forward, those would be purchased when we purchase a replacement ambulance. Is that 46,000 that was highlighted earlier part of this ambulance, or is it part of a replacement of an existing pack on a current ambulance? I just want to clarify.
Yep, so that's part of a replacement of a current ambulance. We are also going to be utilizing FY24 current capital money that the fire department received to purchase a second life pack. That would be specific for this.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
And Stephanie, what's the likely timing on this purchase?
So I believe when I last spoke to the chief, he said that once we give an okay to go ahead on this, it's a little over a year lead time. I think it would be spring of 2025. So that's why we're just looking, we discussed the possibility of having to go maybe town meeting, but right now we were just looking to get funding as soon as possible to get that order in place.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. All right, well, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Sure. I move the select board authorize the use of university station mitigation funds to supplement the purchase of an ambulance.
Second.
Roll call. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Stephanie, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Nice
Madam
job,
Chairman,
Steph.
if I may,
Yes.
you have 2 Q&As in the Q&A.
Oh, thank you. One is from Fran Fusco, 20 Pine Lane. Looks like this is relating back to the prior conversation with the Charter Review Committee. For clarification, I understand the town administrator would not be running elections, but the Charter Commission is proposing allowing the town administrator to choose the town clerk instead of the voters choosing the town clerk. So she is explaining the prior question she had asked. Thank you for expressing that, Fran. I hope that you will attend the meeting in February so that you can raise those issues and there can be a robust discussion about that. And then from Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane, she asks, does the $725,000 Westwood Fire Department squad truck replacement take the place of the $400,000 truck approved in 2021? Stephanie, are you?
Yep. So, that request for the $400,000 vehicle, in past year was to replace the squad. So this is also to replace the same vehicle. It's just, a different type. It's a squad vehicle replacing the squad vehicle. It's not the same vehicle that was requested previously, but it is to replace the same piece of equipment.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Pat. Okay. Moving on to a discussion, initial discussion of warrant articles for the May 2024 annual town meeting. Chris, can we turn this over to you?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So before you, we have 39 proposed articles for your consideration for the annual town meeting ballot or warrant, excuse me. We have our budget articles, which consists of 10. We have approximately 10 select board articles, which include 8 from the Charter Review Committee. The others we have are 3 street acceptances, as well as a general bylaw amendment related to dog leash requirements, which we will certainly get into a little later. We have 10 miscellaneous articles, and we have 7 planning board articles. The miscellaneous articles are something I know can be a little tense at times for some people because they don't know what's happening. Those are articles that we're still working on, getting some details to bring to the board if they're ready to be brought to the board for your discussion and your deliberations, whether or not to include those on the warrant. And we are working on those as we speak. There are some that we can talk about with the information that you just voted regarding the capital. Stephanie, if I'm not mistaken, there's 2 miscellaneous articles that we have for borrowing. So with the board's support for that $2.5 million for the school and the money for the fire truck, those are examples of miscellaneous articles. But because the board hadn't had an opportunity to vote or hear of the capital, we did not want to put those on the list until the board had an opportunity to hear that. So we could move those 2 from miscellaneous to actual board articles. And then we have some other miscellaneous articles that we're still working with town council on, and some others as well.
Thank you, Chris. Questions, comments, Rob and Joe?
None for me.
No, I'm good at this point, Marianne, as well.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for that. And I think we can move on to old business. And first item of old business is with respect to closing.
Madam Chairman, if I may,
Yep,
are you intending on voting to close the town meeting warrant this evening?
that is on our agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm maybe a little confused. I thought it was, is it
Page
further
80,
down the list?
page 84.
I got it.
That's
Thank
the
you.
next item. That's where I'm going.
Mea culpa.
No worries. So the next item of business is to, as town council has highlighted, to close the 2024 annual town meeting warrant, which was opened back on December 4, 2023. And at that time, we indicated the plan to close the warrant in January 2024. So hearing no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I move the select board vote to close the warrant, which includes the aforementioned 39 proposed articles for the 2024 annual town meeting, and publish the draft article listing on the town's website.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. Moving on, we have an appointment to WEAC. Chris, would you be able to take us through that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I can.
No worries.
Just having a little technical user error on my side.
No worries.
Yes, so the chair of WEAC, myself, and also Tish Haley was part of that, had an opportunity to meet with a resident to talk about a vacancy. This was a posted vacancy, just so everyone's understanding. We had one candidate. We did interview him. Mr. Isberg was well informed about what happens with the WEAC. He was a pleasure to speak with and to meet. He's worked in a variety of areas, and more specifically in the energy world for most of his career. Both the chair, Kate, and I thought that he'd be a great addition to WEAC. So we are recommending him for your consideration.
Terrific.
I don't know if he's in the meeting. I'm just trying to check to see if he is here.
There is someone by the name of John. I don't know if that's John Isberg. If that is, maybe raise your hand.
Okay,
Well-
that is John. Yes. So if the board would like to, if you're inclined, he is here.
Great.
And we have a couple of people raising hands, so I don't know. I think John. So I would just say Mr. Isberg was a pleasure to meet with. He was very in tune with what was happening. And like I said, the chair and I both recommend him to the board for your consideration.
Wonderful. I see that someone has joined us. Is that Mr. Isberg?
It is.
Hello, Mr. Isberg, and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. We received your application, and your professional experience in clean energy is very impressive. And I think I can speak for the whole board in saying that we're delighted that someone with your experience and passion is willing to volunteer on WEAC. So thank you for volunteering.
Look forward to working with Chris and Kate.
I will entertain a motion.
Before I do, I just want to say thank you as well. And it's just, we are very, very fortunate in this community to have so many talented folks willing to give of their time and their talents. So thank you in advance, John. And with that, I will make a motion that we appoint John Isberg as a member of the Westwood Environmental Action Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2025.
I'll second that motion with the caveat, John, that I spoke with our town administrator. He spoke in very, very high glowing terms of your expertise. So thank you again for tossing your hat in the ring.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I second that, Marianne. I'm sorry.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll call the roll. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Mr. Isberg, thank you again very much for volunteering. We're very lucky to have you in Westwood and serving in the community.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Have a great night.
You too. Thank you all.
Okay, that leads us to the approval of minutes. We have regular meeting minutes from December 4th, 2023 and December 2023. Let's take the December 4th minutes first. Any edits, comments, changes?
No changes from me.
Outstanding as usual.
With that, I'll accept a motion.
I move the select board approve the minutes from the December 4th, 2023 regular meeting.
And I'll second that motion.
Roll call. Joe?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And to your point, Joe, we really need to thank Tish Healy, who works so hard for the town, particularly on our minutes. So thank you very much, Tish, for everything that you do, including the minutes. Moving on to the minutes from December 2023. Any changes or edits?
None from me.
And I will accept a motion.
All right. I move the select board approve the minutes from the December 20th, 2023 regular meeting.
I'll second the motion for those outstanding minutes.
And I'll call the roll. Joe?
I,
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thanks again, Tish. That brings us to public and press. And seeing one question from Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane. What is the expectation for minutes to be posted on the website? We are still waiting for October 11th to be posted. Can anyone help with that?
I'd have to look back to see if we approved them.
I believe they're posted after we approve them. Chris or Pat, can you confirm that? I'm typically not checking the website as we're getting them.
It's my understanding that once you approve them, they're posted, but I also do not check the website to make sure they're there once I've reviewed them.
This,
Chris, if we approve those, can we get them posted?
Yeah, I will go back in the office and we'll look into that. Yes.
Yeah, could be just a glitch.
We will check into that.
Mary Ann, can I just say, back up for 1 second on the fire truck issue?
Sure.
Clear, but the $400,000 fire truck was a multi-purpose vehicle with one option was the squad truck. And what Stephanie brought up tonight was just the plain basic squad truck, not a component of a multi-purpose vehicle. If that helps. If it doesn't, my apologies.
Okay. All right. I am not seeing any other public comments, so I will announce that our next meeting is January 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. via Zoom. But of course, before that, just want to remind folks again that we have our special town meeting on January 17th. So we hope to see all of you there. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second,
Roll call, Joe.
I.
Rob?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good night.